Sleep in your car, Sister laughed, locking me out of my own lake house. I made one call to 911, their faces when the police cuffed them. The lake house sat exactly where I'd left it 3 months ago, perched on the edge of Crystal Lake like a postcard from a better time. Pine trees surrounded the property, their needles carpeting the driveway where my Honda sat idling. I'd driven 6 hours from Seattle to get here, my spine aching from the journey, my mind already imagining the hot shower and soft bed waiting inside. That was before I saw my sister's BMW parked in my spot. I'm Riley Morrison, 32 years old, and this lake house represented everything I'd worked for since graduating college. 5 years of saving, budgeting, sacrificing vacations, and new clothes and restaurant meals. I bought it 3 years ago as an investment property and weekend retreat, a place to escape the suffocating corporate atmosphere of my accounting firm. The deed had my name on it, only my name. My sister Vanessa had never contributed a single dollar toward the purchase, the property taxes, or the monthly utilities. She was 3 years younger than me, perpetually between jobs, perpetually asking our parents for money, perpetually acting like the world owed her something simply for existing. I grabbed my weekend bag from the passenger seat and walked toward the front door. Music thumped from inside, bass vibrating through the wooden walls. Laughter echoed across the water. My jaw tightened as I climbed the porch steps, fishing my keys from my purse. The key slid into the lock, but wouldn't turn. I jiggled it, thinking maybe the humidity had swollen the wood. Nothing. I tried again, applying more pressure. The lock had been changed. My hand was still on the door knob when the door swung open. Vanessa stood there in a designer swimsuit I knew cost more than my monthly car payment, a champagne flute dangling from her manicured fingers. Her blonde hair fell in perfect beach waves, her skin glowing with expensive bronzer. "Riley," she didn't sound happy to see me. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here? This is my house." "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" She rolled her eyes like I was being unreasonable. Behind her, I could see at least a dozen people sprawled across my furniture, drinks sweating rings onto my coffee table, someone's feet propped on my cream-colored ottoman. "It's Memorial Day weekend," she said, as if that explained everything. "Everyone wanted to get out of the city and you weren't using the place." So you broke in? Changed my locks?" "Don't be so dramatic. Mom gave me her emergency key and I had a locksmith come out for security reasons. There have been break-ins in the area." She said this with complete sincerity, as if she genuinely believed installing new locks on someone else's property constituted reasonable behavior. I pushed past her into my own house. The living room looked like a fraternity party. Red Solo cups littered every surface. Someone had spilled something dark and sticky on my hardwood floors. The sliding glass door to the deck stood wide open, letting in mosquitoes and the smell of grilled meat from my Weber grill that I distinctly remembered leaving covered and stored. "Everyone out," I said loudly, cutting through the music. "This is private property, and you're all trespassing." Vanessa's friends looked up with expressions ranging from confusion to annoyance. A guy in board shorts sprawled on my couch actually had the audacity to say, "Chill out, lady. We're not hurting anything." "Vanessa," I said, keeping my voice level, "turn off the music and tell your friends to leave now." My sister's face transformed from fake innocence to genuine anger. "You can't just show up and ruin everyone's weekend. We've been planning this for weeks." "Planning to use my house without asking me? That's called breaking and entering." She laughed, actually laughed, throwing her head back like I'd told the funniest joke. Several of her friends joined in, smirking at me like I was the punchline. "Breaking and entering. Riley, you sound insane. This is a family property. Mom and Dad come up here all the time. When I invite them. The deed has one name on it, mine." Vanessa took a long sip of champagne, her eyes never leaving mine. "Well, we're not leaving. We took time off work, drove all the way up here, bought food and drinks. Maybe you should have called ahead if you wanted the place to yourself." My hands clenched into fists at my sides. I don't need to call ahead to use my own property. "God, you're always so uptight about everything. My property, my house, my stuff. Can't you just share for once? Be a decent sister?" The irony of Vanessa, who'd never shared anything in her life, lecturing me about generosity nearly made me laugh. Instead, I pulled out my phone. Last chance. Everyone leaves peacefully, or I'm calling the police. Vanessa's expression shifted to something uglier. "Go ahead. Call them. I'll tell them you gave me permission to be here and changed your mind. Who do you think they'll believe?" You showing up alone and angry, or me and all my witnesses who will say you told me I could use the house?" Several of her friends nodded, backing up her story before I'd even dialed. I realized she'd planned this, probably warned them I might show up, coached them on what to say. "You're making a huge mistake," I said quietly. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper meant only for me. "The mistake is you thinking you're better than everyone else. You bought this house to lord it over us, to show off. Well, guess what? Nobody cares. Sleep in your car if you're so bothered." Then she raised her voice so everyone could hear. "My sister's having one of her episodes again. Everyone just ignore her. She'll calm down eventually." The dismissal in her tone, the casual cruelty, the way she turned her back on me and returned to her friends like I was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Something snapped inside me. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply walked back outside, got in my car, and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. "911, what's your emergency?" "I need to report a breaking and entering in progress. I'm the homeowner, and there are approximately 12 people illegally occupying my property at 847 Lakeview Drive. They changed my locks and refused to leave." The dispatcher's tone became more alert. "Are you in danger, ma'am?" "I'm currently in my vehicle in the driveway. The occupants are inside. One of them, my sister Vanessa Morrison, gained entry using a key my mother gave her without my knowledge or permission. She then changed the locks to prevent me from entering. I have the deed and property tax documents in my possession proving ownership. Officers are being dispatched to your location. Can you stay on the line?" "Yes." I sat in my car, phone pressed to my ear, watching the silhouettes of Vanessa and her friends dancing through the windows of my living room. The dispatcher asked me questions about weapons, threats, whether anyone inside was intoxicated. I answered each one calmly, professionally, giving her exactly the information she needed. 18 minutes later, 2 patrol cars rolled up my driveway, lights flashing red and blue across the darkening trees. I stepped out to meet them, my driver's license and property deed already in hand. The first officer, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and no-nonsense posture, introduced herself as Officer Patricia Chen. Her partner was Officer Marcus Webb, younger but equally professional. "Ms. Morrison, you're the one who called?" "Yes, ma'am. I own this property. I have all documentation here." I handed over the deed, my ID, and several months of property tax bills with my name clearly printed. Officer Chen reviewed the documents under her flashlight while Officer Webb approached the house. The music had stopped. Faces appeared in the windows, pale and concerned. "Your call mentioned your sister changed the locks?" "She used an emergency key my mother had, which was intended only for genuine emergencies. She brought friends through a party and changed the locks to keep me out. When I arrived and asked everyone to leave, they refused. My sister told me to sleep in my car." Officer Chen's expression hardened slightly. "How long has she been here?" "I'm not entirely sure. Based on the condition of the house, at least since yesterday, possibly longer." Officer Webb returned from the front door. "There's a young woman claiming to be the property owner's sister. Says she has permission to be here." "She's lying," I said flatly. "I never gave her permission. I haven't spoken to her in 3 weeks." Officer Chen nodded. "We'll need to verify a few things. Do you have any text messages or communications showing you didn't give permission?" I pulled up my phone, showing the officer my message history with Vanessa. The last text was from 3 weeks ago, a brief exchange about our dad's birthday dinner. Nothing about the lake house, nothing granting permission. I also have my bank records showing I'm the sole payer of all utilities and property expenses. I'd come prepared because somewhere deep down I'd known this confrontation would happen eventually. Vanessa had been hinting for months that I should share the lake house more, that it was selfish to keep it to myself. Officer Chen walked toward the house and I followed at a respectful distance. Officer Webb had already gathered everyone onto the front porch. Vanessa stood at the front, arms crossed, her earlier confidence wavering as she took in the officer's serious expressions. "Who here is Vanessa Morrison?" Officer Chen asked. My sister raised her chin defiantly. "That's me. Look, this is just a family misunderstanding. My sister gets like this sometimes, very territorial and possessive. Our parents let me use the house all the time." "Do you have any documentation proving you have legal right to be here?" Vanessa's face flushed. "I'm family. I don't need documentation." "Actually, you do. Your sister has provided ownership documents, property tax records, and utility bills all in her name. She states she never gave you permission to be here. Did she give you verbal or written permission?" She doesn't have to explicitly give permission for everything. It's understood in our family that we share things. Officer Webb interjected. That's not how property law works, ma'am. You've also changed the locks, which the legal owner is stating you did without her consent. That's destruction of property and potentially breaking and entering. The color drained from Vanessa's face. Breaking and entering, this is ridiculous. Riley, tell them this is just a misunderstanding. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The entitled expression, the expectation that I would cave, that I would protect her from consequences like I'd done our entire lives. When she'd crashed Mom's car and I'd lied to our parents about who was driving. When she'd stolen money from my college fund and I'd said nothing to keep the peace. When she'd sabotaged my relationship with my college boyfriend because she was jealous of the attention he gave me. It's not a misunderstanding, I said clearly. I never gave you permission to be here. I want you and your friends removed from my property immediately. Vanessa's mouth fell open. You're really doing this over what, a weekend at the lake house? Over you breaking into my home, changing my locks, and telling me to sleep in my car when I asked you to leave. Officer Chen turned to the group on the porch. Everyone needs to gather their belongings and vacate the property. If you cooperate, you'll be free to leave once we've verified no property damage has occurred. Vanessa's friends scrambled inside, suddenly very eager to distance themselves from the situation. I heard drawers slamming, bags zipping, urgent whispers about whose car would fit how many people. Vanessa Morrison, Officer Chen continued, we need to discuss the lock change and the key you used to gain entry. My sister's eyes darted between me and the officers. The key was from my mother. She's part owner, actually. I said, producing another document from my bag, my parents signed a quick claim deed 3 years ago, removing their names from the property. My father had some financial issues and transferring full ownership to me protected the asset. I have the notarized document here. I'd almost forgotten about that paperwork until this week, when I'd been organizing my file cabinet. Dad's gambling debts had necessitated moving assets around 3 years ago, and the lake house had been one of them. My parents had agreed readily, knowing I'd let them visit whenever they wanted. Officer Chen reviewed the quick claim deed. This appears legitimate. Ms. Morrison, the lock change alone constitutes criminal mischief. Combined with refusing to leave when the legal owner asked you to vacate, we have grounds for trespassing charges. Trespassing? Vanessa's voice rose to a near shriek. Riley, this is insane. We're sisters. Sisters don't break into each other's homes. Officer Webb was taking statements from the departing guests. Most claimed ignorance, saying Vanessa had told them she had permission to use the house. One girl, clearly uncomfortable, pulled me aside. I'm really sorry, she said quietly. Vanessa told us her parents owned the place and you were being difficult about sharing. I wouldn't have come if I had known. I nodded, appreciating her honesty, even if it didn't change anything. The evacuation took 40 minutes. Officer Chen documented everything, taking photos of the spilled drinks, the damaged ottoman, the new locks. Officer Webb had Vanessa sit in his patrol car while they ran her information and discussed the situation with their supervisor via radio. I stood on my porch, watching my sister through the police car window. She wasn't crying, but her face had gone pale and pinched. This was real. She was actually facing consequences. Officer Chen approached me with a clipboard. Ms. Morrison, we can proceed in a few ways. We can arrest your sister for criminal trespassing and criminal mischief regarding the lock change. That would mean taking her to county jail booking, and she'd see a judge Monday morning since it's a holiday weekend. The weight of that statement settled over me. Jail? My sister in jail because of my phone call. Or, I asked, or you can choose not to press charges on the condition that she provides you with the new keys immediately, pays for a locksmith to change them again to keys only you have, and signs a written statement acknowledging she understands she's not permitted on this property without your explicit written permission. If she violates that agreement, the charges can be filed retroactively with our report as documentation. I considered this. Part of me, the hurt and angry part, wanted to watch Vanessa get arrested, wanted her to experience genuine consequences for once in her privileged life. But another part, the part that still remembered her as a kid following me around wanting to play, hesitated. If I do the second option, does this stay on record somewhere? The incident report will be filed, yes. If she violates the agreement, we can pursue charges based on tonight's events plus the new violation. She pays for the locksmith herself, not my parents, not me, her. That would be part of the written agreement. Vanessa had been watching from the patrol car. Officer Webb let her out and brought her over, his hand on her elbow like she might run. Your sister is willing to offer you an alternative to arrest, Officer Chen explained. But you need to understand something, Miss Morrison. This is a one-time offer. If you violate the terms, if you come onto this property again without explicit permission, if you cause your sister any further problems, you will be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Do you understand?" Vanessa nodded, her eyes finally meeting mine. I saw fear there, genuine fear. "Riley, I'm sorry. I didn't think." "You never think," I interrupted. "That's always been your problem. Give me the new keys." She fumbled in her pocket, producing a set of shiny new keys. I took them without touching her hand. Officer Chen continued, "You'll also sign a written statement acknowledging you understand you're banned from this property, and you'll pay for a locksmith to change the locks again, with receipt provided to your sister within 1 week." "But I don't have money for—" "Figure it out," I said coldly. "Get a loan, ask Mom and Dad, sell something. Not my problem." Officer Webb produced a statement form he'd already filled out with the basic information. Vanessa signed it with shaking hands, her signature barely legible. "If I see you here again without a written invitation sent via certified mail," I said, "I won't hesitate. You'll be arrested." She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, to explain, to minimize what she'd done. Then she saw my expression and closed it again. "Can I at least call someone for a ride? My car is blocked in by my friends who already left." "You can walk to the main road and call from there," Officer Chen said firmly. "You're no longer welcome on this property." I watched my sister walk down my driveway in her designer swimsuit and expensive sandals. Her champagne-drunk confidence deflated into something small and scared. She kept glancing back like maybe I'd changed my mind. Call her back. Let this all be a joke. I didn't. After the patrol cars left, I stood alone in my house. The silence felt enormous after all the noise and chaos. I spent 3 hours cleaning, scrubbing spilled alcohol from the floors, washing every dish and glass, airing out the rooms that smelled like too many people. My phone buzzed constantly. Text after text from Vanessa, from my mother, from my father. "Vanessa, please talk to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to go this far." "Mom, what happened? Vanessa is crying, saying you had her arrested. Riley, call me immediately." "Dad, your mother is very upset. Vanessa says there was a misunderstanding about the lake house. Can we talk this through as a family?" I silenced my phone and kept cleaning. The next morning, I woke to 73 text messages and 14 missed calls. I made coffee on my deck, watching the sunrise paint the lake pink and gold, and read through them all. My mother's messages devolved from confusion to anger to accusations. How could I do this to my sister over a house? Family is more important than property. Vanessa made a mistake, but calling the police was extreme. I was tearing the family apart. My father tried to play mediator, suggesting we all meet to discuss things rationally. Vanessa needed to apologize, sure, but I needed to understand how my actions had humiliated her in front of her friends. Vanessa's messages ran the spectrum. Apologies, anger, guilt-tripping, threats to never speak to me again, promises to change, accusations that I'd always been jealous of her. I responded to none of them. Monday morning, I called the locksmith myself. The guy who showed up was chatty, mentioned he'd been out to this address Friday to change the locks. "Your sister seemed nice," he said. "Didn't mention there'd be a problem." "She didn't own the house," I said. "She broke in." His expression shifted to discomfort as he realized he'd been complicit in something illegal. I didn't push it. He changed the locks quickly, gave me 4 copies of the new keys, and left a receipt that I filed with the police report. Vanessa never paid me back for the locksmith. I didn't expect her to. The following Tuesday, my mother showed up at my apartment in Seattle. I came home from work to find her sitting in her Mercedes in the visitor parking, arms crossed, face set in that expression that had made me apologize for things that weren't my fault my entire childhood. "We need to talk," she said, climbing out of her car. "There's nothing to talk about." "Riley Marie Morrison, your sister could have been arrested because of you. Do you understand how that would have affected her life, her job prospects, everything? Do you understand?" She broke into my house, changed my locks, threw a party, and told me to sleep in my car. My mother waved this away like it was inconsequential. She made a mistake. She's young. She's 29. That's not young enough to excuse criminal behavior. It's not criminal behavior. It's family using family property. It's not family property. It's my property. I bought it with my money. My name is on the deed. Mine alone. My mother's face flushed red. "We let you use your father's connection to get a better interest rate on that mortgage. We helped with the down payment." This was revisionist history at its finest. "You loaned me $3,000 8 years ago for security deposits when I first moved to Seattle. I paid you back with interest. You've contributed exactly $0 to the lake house." "That's not the point. The point is family. You're being selfish and cruel. Your father and I raised you better than this. Something inside me fractured. You raised me to set myself on fire to keep Vanessa warm. You raised me to sacrifice everything so she could have everything. I'm done. Don't be so dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. Vanessa broke the law. I gave her the option to avoid arrest out of kindness. She's lucky I didn't press charges. My mother stepped closer, her voice dropping to that particular tone she used when she wanted to wound. You know what your problem is, Riley? You've always been jealous of Vanessa. She's prettier, more popular, more fun. You can't stand that people like her better, so you use your money and your property and your little rules to feel superior. The words should have hurt. They were designed to hurt, but instead I felt something close to relief. The mask was off. The pretense of fairness, of loving both daughters equally, had evaporated. Get out of my parking lot, I said. Don't contact me again unless you're ready to apologize. Apologize for what? For the 32 years of treating Vanessa like a princess and me like her servant. My mother's mouth opened and closed. Then she turned, got in her Mercedes, and drove away. I went upstairs to my apartment, poured a large glass of wine, and cried for an hour. But they weren't entirely sad tears. Some of them were relief. The calls and texts continued for another week, then slowed, then stopped. My parents took Vanessa's side, which surprised me not at all. I was the villain in the family story, the cold-hearted sister who chose property over family. 3 months passed. I spent weekends at the lake house alone mostly, sometimes with friends who respected boundaries. I replaced the stained ottoman, deep-cleaned the carpets, installed a security system with cameras at every entrance. I blocked my parents and Vanessa on all platforms. When they tried to reach out through other family members, I politely but firmly shut it down. Aunt Margaret tried to guilt me at Thanksgiving, saying family was forever and grudges were petty. I left before dessert. Christmas came and went without a word from any of them. I spent it with friends in Seattle, people who actually valued me for me rather than what I could provide. Then in February, I got an email, not from Vanessa, from her roommate Lindsay, someone I'd met a handful of times at family gatherings. Hi, Riley. I know you're not speaking to Vanessa, and I respect that, but I thought you should know she lost her job in December. She had been borrowing money from their petty cash to pay rent, and they found out. They didn't press charges, but she was fired. Your parents cut her off financially after that because I guess this wasn't the first time she'd stolen money. She's been couch surfing since I kicked her out. I'm not asking you to do anything. Just thought you'd want to know. Your sister is basically homeless. I read the email 3 times. Felt nothing. Then felt guilty for feeling nothing. Then felt angry at myself for feeling guilty. I didn't respond. Another month went by. Spring came to Seattle. Cherry blossoms everywhere. The city waking up after its long gray winter. I got promoted at work. A raise and a corner office with a view of the Sound. Life was actually pretty good. Then my father called from a number I hadn't blocked. I answered out of surprise more than anything. Riley. His voice sounded older, tired. Don't hang up. I waited. Your sister is in the hospital. She tried to hurt herself. My heart dropped into my stomach. What happened? Pills. Her friend found her and called 911. She's stable now, but the doctors want her in psychiatric care for a while. Your mother and I have been trying to get her help, but our insurance won't cover long-term treatment, and we can't afford the out-of-pocket costs. Not with my debts and your mother's medical bills. Medical bills? She didn't want anyone to know. Cancer, stage 2. She's in remission now, but the treatment costs were devastating. We had to sell her car, downsize everything. That old Mercedes you saw? We're keeping it running with duct tape and prayers because we can't afford a replacement. I sat down hard on my couch. When diagnosed? April of last year. Treatment through November. The quit claim deed we signed was actually 3 years ago, before we knew about the cancer. But you're right that the timing worked out. It protected the house from the medical debt collectors. Why didn't anyone tell me? Your mother was ashamed. She didn't want you to worry or feel obligated to help. The irony of my mother's pride potentially killing her while she'd enabled Vanessa's complete lack of pride or accountability wasn't lost on me. Is she okay, Mom? Physically, yes. Emotionally, she's devastated about Vanessa. Riley, I know things have been bad. I know we haven't been fair to you over the years. Your mother sees it now too, especially after everything fell apart with Vanessa. But right now your sister needs help we can't afford to give her. The unspoken ask hung in the air between us. You want money, I said flatly. I want my daughters to be okay, both of them. Where were you when I needed help? When I was working 3 jobs to put myself through college because Vanessa's tuition took precedence? When I was eating ramen for months to save for the lake house down payment? Where was the family support then? Silence. I'm not saying you're wrong, my father finally said. I'm saying we failed you. I'm saying we're sorry, and I'm saying your sister, despite everything she's done, is sick and needs help. I wanted to hang up, to maintain my righteous anger, my justified boundaries, my heart in one piece. How much? I asked instead. The facility is $6,000 a month. Insurance will only cover $2,000 after deductibles and maximums. We need help with the other $4,000 for at least 3 months. $12,000, the cost of Vanessa's life, apparently. I'll pay for 6 months, I heard myself say, but I have conditions. Anything. Vanessa enters treatment and actually does the work. No quitting early because it's hard. No manipulating her way out. She completes the full program. Okay. She writes me a genuine apology, not a manipulative one, a real acknowledgement of what she's done to me and to herself. Yes. And you and Mom go to family therapy. Not for Vanessa, for the way you raised us, the favoritism, the enabling. You look at your part in this. My father's breath caught. That's fair. I'll wire the money to the facility directly. I want monthly progress reports. If she quits or gets kicked out, the money stops. Thank you, Riley. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because, despite everything, I don't want my sister to die. I hung up and immediately transferred the money. $24,000 in total. It hurt my savings significantly, but didn't devastate them. The lake house had been appreciating nicely. My investments were solid. I could afford it. That didn't mean it felt good. Vanessa sent a letter 4 weeks into treatment. It arrived in a cream-colored envelope with my name written in her familiar looping handwriting. I left it on my counter for 3 days before opening it. Riley, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should, but my therapist says I need to write it anyway, even if you throw it away unread. She says recovery starts with accountability. I'm not good at accountability. I've never had to be. That's not an excuse, just the truth. You were right about everything. Mom and Dad let me get away with murder my whole life. I never learned consequences because there never were any until you. The lake house wasn't the first time I used you. It wasn't even the worst time. Remember when I borrowed your car for that weekend and returned it with a dent? I lied. I wasn't rear-ended. I hit a pole while drunk and blamed the other driver. You paid the deductible because I cried and said I couldn't afford it. Remember when I told Mom and Dad that you were the one who suggested investing in that pyramid scheme that cost them $10,000? That was me. I did it. I lied to save my own skin and watched you take the blame. Remember when I told Mark, your college boyfriend, that you were cheating on him with his roommate? I made that up because I wanted him for myself. I destroyed your relationship out of jealousy and spite. There's more. So much more. 29 years of using you, hurting you, taking advantage of your kindness. I told myself it was normal sibling stuff, that you were strong enough to handle it, that you didn't really mind. But that's not true. I did mind. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway, because there were never consequences. Until the lake house, until you actually stood up for yourself and I ended up in a police car, humiliated and scared. I hated you for that. For weeks, I hated you. Told myself you were vindictive, that you took things too seriously. But sitting in this facility, actually dealing with my issues for the first time in my life, I see it differently. You saved my life by setting boundaries. I read the letter twice, then put it in my fire safe with my other important documents. Forgiveness wasn't immediate. Trust wasn't automatic, but it was a start. 6 months later, Vanessa completed her program. My father called to let me know, his voice thick with emotion. She's gotten a job at a nonprofit. Nothing glamorous, but honest work. She's been attending AA meetings and therapy. She's moved into a small studio apartment and is paying her own bills. She asks about you, he said, not demanding to see you or anything, just asks how you're doing. What do you tell her? That you're good, that you're happy, that you need space, and we're respecting that. 8 months after the hospital, I received an invitation in the mail. My parents were renewing their vows for their 35th anniversary. A small ceremony at a local church, reception to follow. My name was on the invitation, but there was a handwritten note at the bottom in my mother's handwriting. We understand if you're not ready. No pressure, but we'd love to see you. Love, Mom and Dad. I went. I won't say it was easy or that everything was magically fixed. My mother looked older, thinner, her hair grayer than I remembered. My father's face was lined with exhaustion. Vanessa stood off to the side in a simple dress. No designer labels, her hair pulled back plainly. We didn't embrace, didn't cry, didn't reconcile dramatically. But we made eye contact across the church, and she gave me a small nod that I returned. At the reception, she approached me carefully. "Thanks for coming. Congratulations on completing the program. Thanks for making it possible." She paused, looked down at her hands. "I'm working on paying you back. It'll take a while on my salary, but I'm putting away $100 a month." "You don't have to." "I do. I really do." She met my eyes. "Can I write to you sometimes? Not expecting responses, just keeping you updated if you want." I considered this. Okay. It wasn't reconciliation, it wasn't forgiveness. It was an opening, a possibility. A door left slightly ajar instead of slammed shut. 2 years have passed since that Memorial Day weekend. I still own the lake house. I still go there on weekends. Still find peace in the water and trees and silence. My relationship with my parents is cordial, but boundaried. We have dinner once a month. We don't talk about the past unless it's in therapy, which they've continued even after Vanessa completed treatment. Vanessa and I exchange emails every few weeks. Surface-level stuff mostly, occasional deeper conversations. She's dating someone, a teacher named Chris, who seems genuinely kind. She's been promoted at work. She's 2 years sober. Last month, she asked if she could visit the lake house. Not to stay, just to see it again. To face the place where everything fell apart and began rebuilding. I said yes. She drove up on a Saturday in March, pulled into the driveway in a used Toyota she'd bought herself. I met her on the porch and we stood awkwardly for a moment. "Hi," she said. "Hi." We walked the property together, mostly in silence. She stopped at the spot where Officer Chen's patrol car had been parked, staring at the ground like she could still see it there. "I think about that night all the time," she said quietly. "How scared I was. How sure I was that you'd ruin my life by calling the cops." "Did I?" She turned to me, something like gratitude in her eyes. "You saved it." We stayed for an hour, had coffee on the deck, talked about small things, work and weather, and the geese that had started nesting by the shore. When she left, she hugged me briefly, carefully, like she wasn't sure she had permission. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, especially for not backing down." I watched her drive away, her taillights disappearing into the trees. Inside, I made dinner for one, ate on the deck as the sun set over the lake, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace with my choices. I'd set boundaries. I'd protected myself. I'd let my sister face consequences, and somehow, impossibly, it had led to healing. The lake house sat quiet around me, finally and completely mine. No resentment, no conflict, just the gentle lap of water and evening birds calling to each other in the growing dark. It had been worth it. Every difficult moment, every painful conversation, every time I'd stood my ground when it would have been easier to give in. The property deed was framed now, hanging in my bedroom where I could see it every morning. One name, my name, a reminder that some things are worth protecting, even from family, especially from family. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Sarah asking if I wanted company next weekend. I texted back, "Yes," smiling as I typed. The lake house had room for guests now, real guests, people I chose to invite, people who respected my space and my boundaries, people who understood that love without respect isn't really love at all. The stars came out, reflecting in the dark water. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was driving back to Seattle, to her small apartment, her honest job, and her hard-won sobriety. Somewhere behind me, my parents were learning to see their daughters clearly for the first time.